Now that a new video of Lil Jeff's last minutes has surfaced, everything is beginning to make sense and everyone is talking. But here is where things start to get interesting. Before we break it all down, we must first take a close look at that Lil Jeff film. His friend Q50 was also in the tape, and something unexpected happened that has the ops clowning him like never before. Just before his terrible demise, Lil Jeff's last moments were caught on tape. The intensity is so high that it seems like it might be from one of Lil Jeff's own drill music videos. He is seen on camera walking into extreme heat while wearing gray jeans and a black sweatshirt. One Reddit user couldn't help but joke about the moment, saying, "I bet his life flashed before his eyes when he slipped and hit the ground while all those shots were ringing." Another Reddit user was obsessed with his outfit, adding, "It's still blowing me how the guy thought to slide in the least inconspicuous outfit possible, but the moment wasn't just about Q50 slipping, but about the weight of what had just happened." Lil Jeff is locked in on his target, a man running for his life toward a house, but just as he closes in, gunshots ring out and Lil Jeff crashes to the ground. Lil Jeff, the rapper and dreaded member of Bloodhound who was always rapping up about dumping corpses, was gone. And revising his body count, only this time he was the one getting dropped, and it was all caught on camera. The shooting happened on June 8, 2024 in broad daylight on South Rhodes Avenue, Chicago. The streets had witnessed violence before, but nothing quite like this. What started as a routine hit, something Jeff had done countless times before, turned into a complete disaster. Earlier that day, Jeff Q50 and another shooter were riding through enemy territory in a black SUV. They were on a mission there. Sites locked onto arrival. According to reports, his name was Man. If you take a close look at the video, you'll see a man in bright yellow shorts sprinting toward the house. Their plan was simple: jump out, fire shots, take Man down, and leave the moment they spotted the target. The doors of the SUV swung open. Jeff was the first one out, moving just like he always rapped about. His gun was already up, his fingers locked on the trigger. He didn't hesitate. He fired. The man in yellow shorts wasn't about to stand still and let himself get caught. He took off running, dodging bullets, weaving through the street, desperately trying to get away. Jeff was right on his heels, chasing him with the kind of hunger that had made him so fear. But here's where everything went wrong. Jeff followed the target into a house alone with his crew. Q50 and the other shooter stayed back and continued firing at a gray car parked nearby. Perhaps they thought Jeff had it under control, or perhaps they believed they had enough firepower to handle things from outside. In any case, Jeff was left all alone when he entered the house, and before he could react, a storm of bullets tore through his body, sending him flying back. He crashed out of the house, his body twisting and landing hard on the pavement, and the shooter continued. Whoever was inside that house was making sure Jeff wasn't getting up outside of Q50, and the other shooter realized too late what had happened when they saw Jeff lying there. Jeff, who had spent his career boasting about emptying clips into his enemies, lay helpless as more bullets tore through him. Reports later confirmed he was shot 19 times. By the time it was over 58 shell casings were recovered from the scene. The scene they left behind was one of pure devastation, with Jeff lying helplessly on the floor, gasping for air, and the sound of the gunshots still reverberating in the air as people inside their homes dared to peek out and see the aftermath of what had just happened. Jeff's gang mates circled back to take him to the hospital in a desperate attempt to save him, but none of them could survive. Bleeding out, barely moving, instinct took over and they rushed toward him, desperate to pull him out of the line of fire, but it was too late. 19 bullets to the chest, words spread fast, but before Jeff's body was even taken off the street, social media had already exploded. The streets, the blogs, the drill community, everyone was talking about it. The fact that he was caught on camera in broad daylight being gunned down so brutally made the situation even wilder. Some people were in shock, unable to believe that Lil Jeff, one of the most feared names in the Bloodhound gang, was really gone. His closest friends and supporters took to social media to express their grief. One of Jeff's close associates, Lil Scum89, took to Instagram, posting a series of stories mourning his friend. "I love you and ma be with you real soon," he wrote, adding, "Damn brother, this sh don't feel real." Another artist and music video director, AMF Visuals, who had worked with Jeff before, posted a heartbreaking tribute. He shared a picture of Jeff along with a broken heart emoji, a nod to the music video they had worked on together earlier in the year, but not everyone was Sympathetic for many, one of the most popular comments on the video captured what many people were thinking: "The energy you put out always comes back to you." Another comment added that trying to chase someone into their own house off the street is the ultimate crash-out move. Jeff's death was nothing more than karma finally catching up. One parallel that immediately surfaced was that Lil Jeff and King Vav were both Chicago street legends who were heavily involved in drill and had bodies under their names. However, V's story took a different turn than Jeff's, who rose to fame quickly and never faced significant legal repercussions for his alleged crimes. While Jeff's rise was much faster and more reckless, the conversation surrounding his death was not just about mourning, but also about what his death meant for the streets. The fact that he had been taken out so dramatically, so publicly, and in a way that directly mirrored his own violent lifestyle was proof that no one was untouchable. V had been active in the trenches for almost 10 years, went to jail for bodies, and beat the charges. He also started young like most gang members. While some paid their respects, Trap City saw it as an opportunity to humiliate their fallen rival. Chicago had lost yet another drill figure, but unlike others who had been taken out in ambushes or setups, Jeff went out doing exactly what he rapped about, and the internet wasn't going to let anyone forget it. As soon as Lil Jeff's footage went viral, everyone could talk about it. The streets of Chicago have never been known for their compassion, and Lil Jeff's death was no different. While his family and Bloodhound affiliates grieved for him, videos quickly appeared on Instagram that demonstrated that Trap City had no intention of allowing Jeff to rest in peace. This was one of the most disrespectful displays in recent drill history, as members of Trap City openly ridiculed how Lil Jeff died and made fun of his friend Q50 slip, exaggerating how he fell and limping back toward his car. The video of Q50 trying to save Jeff but retreating under intense gunfire soon became a common joke in the drill, and city residents weren't only laughing at Jeff's death, they were also laughing at Q50, the Bloodhounds, and the whole event that took place on June 8th. As if Jeff's death had given Trap City a reason to celebrate, and they weren't going to let the moment pass without making their victory known. Community memes, diss tracks, and brutal Instagram stories were all over the internet. Some of their rappers went straight to the studio and recorded diss tracks that made direct reference to Jeff's fatal error. Social media went crazy. While some fans were shocked by how quickly the streets moved and how little time it took for the mockery to start, others, particularly those who had been following Jeff's career and lifestyle, saw it coming from a mile away. One Reddit user warned that the disrespect wouldn't go unanswered. While some fans concentrated on talking about revenge, others were more interested in determining who exactly was responsible for Jeff's death. Was it Trap City? Rob. The internet chose its top suspect, Trap City, barely 2 days after Jeff was killed. As the attack unfolded, Jeff running inside the house only to be shot from within suggested that someone was already waiting and that Rob was the only person with a reason to be there ready to fire. Rob's discussions on chirology and other Reddit forums connected Rob to the shooting, pointing out that he had been arrested several times at the same apartment where Jeff was shot down. Rob, whose true name has mostly remained hidden from the public, was a well-known character in Trap City who was closely associated with the set. He had been active on the streets for years, developing a reputation for being shrewd, strategic, and brutal when needed, in contrast to Jeff, who approached beef more carelessly. Rob was described as calculating and preferring to set traps instead of blindly going into combat. Rob's picture subsequently went popular online. It purportedly showed Rob in Trap City wearing a provocative shirt that many said made fun of Jeff's death. The message was plain. Not only was Rob suspected of being the shooter, but he made sure everyone knew it. There was constant trolling. One of the viral photos' captions said that the situation took a wild turn when police arrested Rob and released him shortly after without charging him. Rob's arrest was expected given all the online rumors and the connections people made, but what shocked everyone was how quickly he was released. The fact that he wasn't charged raised serious questions about what actually happened inside that house, which sparked an even bigger debate. Jeff's killer was on the run, and some even claimed that Rob had been officially declared wanted. Some said that since Rob was free, the murder constituted self-defense. Since Jeff was the one who started the violence by storming into the home with a pistol in hand, other people had a different perspective and thought that the sheer volume of rounds fired indicated that this was an overkill, a setup, or a planned execution. News from the Trenches, one of the most prominent voices in the media, offered their opinion on the matter. They seized Rob because of the 19 bullets, but it wasn't self-defense. It's overkill. This remark really got to me. Since there is no clear surveillance footage of what happened inside the house, it is impossible to determine whether Rob actually acted in self-defense or if he simply executed. Many people believe that even if Jeff had been the aggressor, 19 bullets was excessive and that whoever was in that house wanted to ensure Jeff never left. However, others counter that the streets of Chicago don't follow normal rules when someone runs into you with a gun. Jeff Robb, however, said nothing about the circumstances after his escape from in cold blood. In an interview, Robb discussed the violence that had permeated Chicago's drill culture. Although he never explicitly acknowledged or denied his involvement in Jeff's murder, he did discuss his perspective on the streets, which is similar to mine, but I understand the general idea. He continued by explaining that he believed the cycle of violence was a trap set up against Black men. Black men in America are incredibly undereducated and underdeveloped, and I don't listen to them when it comes to emotional intelligence. People are shot over their shoes, which isn't emotional, but no matter how hard Rob tried to disassociate himself from the violence, the harm had already been done. The conflict between the Bloodhound and the trap had been exacerbated by Jeff's passing. On June 9, 2024, the day after Jeff was murdered, the burden of his death finally dawned on his closest friends and family, who went to social media to continue processing what had occurred. City and his release only made matters worse. Hugh, 50, shaken by the fact that he had been present when Jeff took his final breaths, hinted at revenge. Jeff's father, overcome with grief, posted a chilling message on Facebook, saying, "You didn't get him. He came trying to get y'all, and what happened happened, but the saga continues through the streets." It was a chilling statement that made it clear that this was not the end of the story. Jeff's funeral took place on June 22, 2024, and although it should have been a time of mourning, with family members gathered to remember him, it felt more like a declaration of war. The way Jeff was honored spoke volumes, and attendees called him the Reaper, a moniker that reflected both his reputation and the way his life ended. Social media was overflowing with funeral pictures of people paying their respects, and some of the most striking ones showed Jeff's girlfriend dropping the letter Y in front of his bouquet of flowers. This was a subtle but meaningful tribute, but despite the sadness, the streets were still talking about Trap City and the trolling persisted. The disrespect only served to heighten tensions between the two sides because, in the world of Chicago drill, a body drop isn't just the end of a conflict, it's a gateway to the next wave of violence. The mockery wasn't just about disrespecting Lil Jeff, it was a message to Bloodhound that the war was far from over and that its roots ran deep. The feud between Trap City and Bloodhound was not an adversary. Rather, the two groups ran together under the same umbrella. Rappers like RB Tay, Lil Kapfer, and Muka were holding it down, dropping songs like On Fire to represent the alliance, and even celebrities had ties to their movement. Bloodhound 0679 was a strong coalition that included Drill City 400 East, MTV 079, and Chris World. Together, they held their own in the streets, protecting one another and creating music that represented their unity. In 2023, the family bond was broken, and what had once been an unbreakable alliance turned into a bloody war. It all began with one tragic event on March 16, 2023, when the first real crack in the relationship between Bloodhound and Trap City came in the form of a deadly ambush that night. Z Money, also known as Z Nelson Lil, King Von's sister KB, and the late Enchanting were seen hanging in Trap City and appearing in music videos, demonstrating that these sets were more than just associates, they were family. On 79th and Kimball, Jeff's cousin, a significant Bloodhound figure, was waiting in his vehicle. He had just driven there and was waiting for his friend to unexpectedly go get something from a dry cleaner. Z Money attempted to flee as a vehicle drove up next to him, but it was too late. More than 29 bullets tore through his car and body, killing him before he could even react. His friend in the car with him shot back, but the damage was already done. Bloodhounds suffered a significant loss that day, but the rumors and conversations on the streets made matters worse. Z-Money was now more than just another victim. He was Jeff's family, along with Jeff's true brother. Boogie was locked up. When Z-Money was slain, it was the closest thing he had to a brother on the streets. As time went on, additional rumors surfaced, but Jeff and Q50 didn't simply grieve him. They made it permanent by getting his name permanently inked on their eyelids and Z's on their trigger fingers as a strong indication that his death wouldn't go unacknowledged. Street rumors indicated that Z-Money's own former allies in Trap City were involved in his murder. Some claimed it was because of a girl, while others said it had to do with a stolen chain. Whatever the reason, the trust was broken, and in July 2024, the truth, or at least some of it, finally surfaced in an interview with XMN. Members of Trap City hinted to the origin of their feud with Bloodhound on YouTube. They didn't specifically identify names, but they didn't have to since they knew what they did, so it's alright, the Bloodhounds were fine. They snatched a necklace from my friend Jeff, who was my friend, in accordance with the street practice. Bloodhound Tight City residents are accused of stealing a chain from a Trap City affiliate. The chain was... He was just 12 years old in 2014, when most children were still in middle school, when he was first exposed to violence. His first murder was supposedly committed by Jeff. Jeff was a small, scrawny kid from the far south side of Chicago who dreamed of becoming a hooper, but the streets had other plans for him. His older brother, J Boogie, was already well established in the community, and it didn't take long for Jeff to follow in his footsteps after the mob killed 18-year-old Molly Ma. Although the murder of Miley Ma was never officially connected to Jeff, the streets had their suspicions. They whispered that a 12-year-old had been involved in a hit, and that the young boy who had once dribbled a basketball had traded it in for a gun. From that point on, Jeff was no longer a kid. Instead, he was a soldier. Jeff never had a typical childhood. Instead, he grew up in a war zone full of bloodshed, betrayals, and unending retaliation. His father was absent, allegedly conducting business with the 068C block, and his mother, rather than guiding him away from the streets, seemed to encourage his violent lifestyle in a now viral Instagram story. Jeff's mother boasted about his reputation, saying, "Go ahead, son, your name is ringing bells in the streets." She even went so far as to praise him for sliding on kids. Jeff used to share a bed with them. His experiences growing up in Chicago only served to further entrench him in the trenches. He once disclosed in an interview how, when he was just 14 years old, his home was shot up in a drive-by. The bullet flew right past my face, then they blew the car in the front, setting it on fire. I won't lie, that moment cemented his place in the streets. He had nearly died before he even learned to drive, and from that point on, he lived with a gun in his hand. Nelson was waiting for his friend to drop off some clothes at the dry cleaner on 79th and Kimball when 29 bullets suddenly rang out. Z-Money never had a chance because this wasn't just another murder, it was a personal one. Z-Money wasn't just Jeff's cousin, he was his right-hand man and his street brother, the person he trusted the most. His loss sent Jeff over the edge, and within weeks, Jeff made it clear that he would exact revenge in June 2023. According to reports, Jeff got his get-back stuck. Lil Real Nam, a city member the following day, Jeff and his crew released a remix of Coffin, which featured subliminal disses directed at Lau's murder. If that wasn't enough, Jeff doubled down in his music with Stretched, in which he rapped about catching an op in a fishbowl, a reference to Lou being shot in a car with untinted windows. Jeff believed that the murder wasn't just revenge, but entertainment. Jaleel Goins was sitting in a parked rideshare in Little Italy when bullets tore through the car. Little Italy is one of the safest neighborhoods in Chicago, which made the murder all the more shocking. In addition to being careless on the streets, Jeff was also careless online. He often boasted about his corpse count on Instagram Live, and at one time he even made fun of capturing a shark in a fish tank, which was a clear allusion to Law's murder. Fans were shocked by Jeff's candor about killings. One Reddit user commented that it was all a game to him, but to Jeff, every person was a new accomplishment and a new score to add to his record. As Jeff's fame grew, so did the rumors that bloodhounds were selling hits across state lines and accepting contracts in Milwaukee for his song Run, but Jeff couldn't hide it. Although there was never concrete evidence connecting Jeff to out-of-date hits, the rumors only increased his fear that he was no longer just a Chicago problem. His name was being mentioned in other cities as well. Jeff's list of alleged murders continued to grow, and one of his most notorious victims was Lil Pooh from Flipside. Jeff also explained how the bloodhounds obtained blood for hire, indicating that they're selling hits too. Pooh was reportedly affiliated with Trap City, and his murder in April 2023 sent shockwaves through the drill community. Instead of staying quiet, Jeff took credit in the most disrespectful way possible on a tribute post for Lil Pooh. Jeff commented he was dissing Z Money. To him it was simple: diss the dead, and you become the dead. What made Jeff different from other killers was his attitude toward his victims. For him, murder wasn't just a necessity, it was fun. His cold-blooded nature was summed up in one of his IG lives where he casually joked about a recent hit. Fans were horrified, but that was Jeff. To him, life and death were just another part of the game. The time Jeff was killed in June 2024, his body count was legendary. He was rumored to have been involved in at least 11 murders, maybe more. His name was feared. His presence alone made ops run, but in the end, his own obsession with violence caught up with him. He spent years hunting his enemies until one day the hunter became the hunter. Thank you for watching. Click on one of the boxes that appears on your screen to see other videos that are similar to this one if you liked it.